Ladies and gentlemen, Gummy Ghost here. Today I wanted to do some gabbing about some games. So I'm going to be doing that. I want to talk about the current trajectory of like gaming, where it's going, what my moves are going to be moving forward, in regards to like what consoles I want to own, how I'm going to be buying games, what platform. Um, and I'm going to be doing it from the perspective of like a console peasant. I can't afford the PC, so the PC is not something I'm going to think about. If I don't have $3 grand to drop on a PC, I don't even think that it's worth even picking it up, at least at the current market right now. So I'm not going to be talking about PC, we're going to be talking about consoles. So first thing I got to mention about consoles is the mobile market that has, popped up because of the Nintendo Switch. Let's be honest. Ever since the Nintendo Switch came out, it sold a metric fuck ton, and everyone wants to be the Switch. So now we have these PC hybrid consoles as well. I do not, first of all, consider the PC hybrid consoles to be consoles at all. They break the price range rule, and they aren't good for the power for the money. You know what I mean? Like, your dollar per value is not as good as like a PS5 Pro. Straight the fuck up. Don't even talk to me in the comments if you want to have an argument about this, because I'm going to ignore you because you're just wrong, and I don't have to waste my pearls on swine. That's why. So when it comes to that, you're not getting the right power per dollar. That's just how these tablets are sold. They don't take a loss on the hardware like console manufacturers like PlayStation do. So just get that out of the way. So mobile, I'm not interested. And even as a gaming experience, I have to be real. I think handhelds peaked with the 3DS. I really, really think that handhelds peaked with the 3DS because you can hold that thing in your hand for a few hours and you don't feel exhausted. The games were more designed to be picked up and put down, which nowadays the games that are on the Switch are made to be played for hours. I don't need to do that in an adult setting. I just don't. I prefer to game at home with my headphones on where I know I'm safe and I have time. So again, not a fan of the mobile market. It's officially disqualified. Though before I move on from the mobile tablet section of my discussion, I just want to also bring up that the Switch is a horrible money sink, and the Switch 2 will probably be no different. The amount of money you're going to have to not only invest in the console, but the accessories as well, other Joy-Cons, cases, it's going to suck. And I remember having to pay out all that for the Switch. And not only that, you're going to be paying more for the games. Nintendo takes a bigger percentage of game sales, so games are naturally more expensive on the Switch. Also, they aren't fans of lowering their prices whatsoever, because it is a business strategy for them to not condition their customer to pay less. So keep that in mind, that if you are looking at Nintendo as a value proposition, they are absolutely horrible. And this persists to date. And this is not considering the Switch price hikes, like the $80 games, because that's already existed, and I think people are kind of overreacting about that a bit. If the game was worth 80 bucks, I'd pay it, but the games aren't worth 80 bucks. So, just don't pay it. There's usually not a reason to. So, again, if you're considering the Switch as a value prop, it's completely disqualified. So, I mean, if you've been gaming long enough, right? If you've been gaming long enough, you probably know where I'm going on this discussion, since I've already disqualified, PC and Switch, right off the gate. You already know where my heart's going in terms of platforms, but I have to be real, it's kind of a reluctant, feeling. And I guess I'll get into it. So let's just start off with, like, the Xbox Series S and X. It's over. Xbox is getting rid of their console. It is pretty much a wrap. I would be shocked if they actually released a new Xbox console, because no one's going to buy it. Like, it doesn't even matter if they do, it's over, right? I don't take them seriously. It would take an absolute miracle to bring them back. And honestly, if they just become a good publisher, I think that's a better fate than making consoles that are so bad that they don't even have 16 gigs of RAM, Xbox Series S. Oddly enough, with that being said, if you happen to have a Series S, you might actually want to hold on to it, because you're not going to be able to sell it worth a dime. you might as well archive a bunch of 360 games and use the S as a portable 360 emulator, because that's actually what the console does very well. It also has great mouse and keyboard support, so for boomer shooters, it's really good too. I actually still like the Series S. The Series X is just a straight up ripoff. Unless you wanted to play at a higher resolution at 30 FPS, then the Series X is just complete garbage. It does not deliver performance almost at all, if ever. It is a horribly designed machine, and I'm glad Microsoft actually fired their physical hardware division for Xbox. They deserved the axe with how bad they were optimized. And moving on to the PS5 is like it's like basically the in-between of the S and the X in concept, in that I feel like it kind of delivered on what it was promising, but not really. It was half-assed and underappreciated. So basically, when I got my 5, I was all jazzed up playing Ghost of Tsushima at 60 and with good resolution, and then I played Kena Bridge of Spirits, and then I was like, wow, this console runs really well. And then I played games like Hogwarts Legacy, Ghost Runner 2, even some of the older ports from the PlayStation, and this frame rate just drops and drops and drops and drops. And dude, I have to be real, the PS5 feels more like the PS4 Pro Plus than it does a PS5. What they promised me with the PS5 was 1080 60 or 1440 60, and then upscaled 4K 30, and I was like, cool, bet. I want that shit in my life. I'm tired of dealing with the load times of the PS4. I'm tired of dealing with low frame rate. Frame rate has been a big thing for me for a long time, okay? They didn't deliver the frame rate. It's just an objective lie. The performance modes, almost, especially for modern games, just straight up don't exist or don't work properly. You can say you need a VRR monitor to deal with that. That's not what they pitched me when they initially sold the console. So I think the PS5 was a lie. I just do. I think that it's an undercooked version of what they promised. Now, where I landed, and I did this because I thought inflation was going to push me into a higher price range and I didn't want to do it, was the PS5 Pro. Everyone has been telling me the PS5 Pro is bad, it's not good for the money. They're wrong. They actually delivered on frame rate. Like, all the games that I was having performance issues with, like Ghost Runner 2, Hogwarts Legacy, Shadow Warrior 3, all of those performances have been padded out to smooth 60 FPS. It's actually incredible how well this machine runs. I even record videos on a PS5 Pro because of how well it does it. So I absolutely love the power of this machine. It did actually deliver the dollar per value. And the thing that makes me mad about the PS5 Pro, though, at the same time, is literally the reason I like the PS5 Pro is because it delivers all the promises the PS5 initially made to me. I now have a 1440p performance mode that runs well enough. I now have the stupid ray tracing that no one ever gave a shit about. I now have the smooth performance, like I said. So, like, that's all I wanted. And yeah, I haven't even gotten into the games yet. We're about to get into the games. So I guess it's about time we got into the games. La games. So, I am a millennial, okay? This is where my perspective is coming from. I grew up during the early 2000s, where a lot of people consider gaming to be at peak. Do I believe in this mentality? Yes, I actually do, and here's why. Basically, when games were coming up, companies were way more likely to experiment. They had a lot more creativity and passion behind their ideas, because those were the things that were going to cause a product to stick and make money. So everyone was experimenting, they had smaller budgets and more creative freedom. That is why games were better in the early 2000s. And you not only saw this with independent developers, like, you know, third party and independent, but you also saw things from AAA that were also experimental, creative, and fun. And you had a lot of talent that does not exist today that came from that generation. And the reason I think that talent exists is because the soil was pure. People weren't overloaded with dopamine like they are in the modern day, and they actually had time to sit and play with like sticks and rocks, and they had to use their imagination and have fun that way. That's why they write better stories. I actually think this is a cultural problem, that our art isn't as intricate or creative, is because of that, you know, like landscape that we try to harbor creativity from. Like I said, it's like tainted soil in a way. So that's why I believe the early 2000s were really good. The PS2 was obviously peak for like horror games and stuff like that, and I loved my GameCube. Mario Sunshine rings true to my heart for years and years and years and years. Dude, if I even hear the OST to that game, dude, if I even hear the soundtrack a little bit, it just puts me back in Isle Delfino in the tropical summer, and it just brings me back to my childhood. So yes, it was peak because people were willing to experiment. Now they're just like it feels like they're copying their parents' homework in like the modern era, at least when it comes to AAA. And yeah, I guess let's get into that part of the discussion then. So when we're talking about like AAA and stuff, I think this ties into a deeper conversation that it's basically a repeated point I keep seeing online, where everyone is basically saying that, you know, gaming has completely degraded as a hobby, to the point where it's not worth it, and we're just waiting for basically the collapse of the video game industry in large. Is this actually happening? Like, is it are games just completely dead? Is this hobby completely stagnant to the point where I'm only playing old games? The answer is no. I do not feel this way. And again, this is coming from a millennial from the early 2000s. Now, I think I've adapted to the current landscape of gaming. Whereas, for example, I adopted like the FromSoft, what do they call them, Soulsborns. I became oddly addicted to those, and that has kept me in modern gaming, I would say, for the most part, because a lot of the good games that have released that are any good are in that genre of basically like third-person action game that actually has competent gameplay that you have to react to, and it's like a very, very fun and learning experience and stuff like that. And I would say that genre has definitely saved me on my modern perspective on games, you know? But in between that, I do still enjoy my old games still, so that's a part of the hobby too. It seems to be evergreen when you find a game that you really, really like. You can always come back to it and enjoy it that way. So as a millennial gamer in 2025, do I think gaming is still worth it as a hobby? Yeah, I do. I do. I'm not going to take the conversation to such a nihilistic degree that I'm going to say I hate games. However, where I think the truth comes from in this conversation is that AAA gaming in the West is just completely cooked. And the reason it's completely cooked is because of microtransactions, and that is because of communism. I don't know how to talk about this other than like saying what it actually is, but I also don't want to get flagged and banned or whatever. So I'm just going to say that basically, due to communist subversion, DEI hiring practices, these people just don't want to make good games. They want to make propaganda. That's what's happening here, and that is why in the West, AAA gaming is cooked. We see this in Death Stranding 2. We've seen it in a game as blatant as Dustborn. There is literally a psyop going on where they're telling us that we suck. And that's all I'm going to say. There is a psyop going on in Western media that tells us that we suck. And that's all I'm going to say about it. That's all I'm going to get into. I don't want to divide people politically on this channel or do anything that way. But it's just something that is objectively there. Like, if you're a gamer and you love this hobby and you're on the level of even watching this video, then you care enough to know what the actual problem is. And it's communism. They hate beauty. They hate anything that has like too strong of a feeling. They want to pad everything, censor language. Can't say this about this person, can't say that about that person. The war against beauty just objectively frustrates me as someone who loves games as art, because art is beautiful. Good art is beautiful. You don't hang a portrait on your wall because it's ugly as fuck. or mid. That's what I mean. Like for example, all the characters are beautiful in Lies of P. This is phenomenal design because it makes you care about these characters more. Because otherwise, what are they? They're just projections of people. They look like people I would just see in the normal day who I would never interact with. You see what I mean? Art, it's performative. And beauty is a part of the performance. So again, this is why the communism hurts the art. Again, I'm not trying to upset anyone, but at the same time, I don't know what else to tell you. This is an actual problem that exists in gaming, and until it's addressed in the West, it's not going to be a problem. You know, you see with like Resident Evil 4 Remake, I love that game. And you know why? Because it doesn't go fully ridiculous with that Western pandering. Did they censor the ballistic scenes about Ashley's chest? Yes. But you know what they did for me? They made Ashley Graham so hot I can barely look away from her. And that's service. That's service. And not only that, she's a better written character in Remake than she was in the original. I would prefer this Ashley Graham over the previous, even though it doesn't, you know, appease my inner chud, if you will. So that's what I mean. That's why it's in danger in the West. However, guys, indie games slap. I love indie games right now. They're the games I play the most, and also third party slaps. And to be fair, even the game that I'm playing that is like, you know, AAA adjacent, you know, Oblivion Remastered, that was pretty much done third party, right? That was a contracted game. They no longer work for Microsoft, is what I'm hearing. So, dude, I'm telling you, indies will save the world. They absolutely will. So obviously, I think the reason indies are going to save the world, indies and third parties specifically, it comes down to creative freedom and the fact that they actually have artistic vision and they want to actually see stories and mechanics come to life. You see that in the indie industry and third party, like just so much charm and effort went into like Lies of P and games like Alyssa, you know, like a nod back to the old Resident Evils. They even improved on mechanics in Alyssa, by the way. Like there's like a aiming mechanic that they actually allow. Basically, you can do free aim with the isometric camera angles, and it works because of a targeting system you can have while free aiming to, you know, determine if your beat is on. I love it. I love it. I love the creativity that is currently going through the indie studios and not triple A, third party, I mean. They're just doing really, 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 really well. You know, they didn't fall victim to these predatory monetization practices. They were focused on making art. And that's what's dystopian about Western games, is they're just made to make money. A lot of them are live services. We lost the entire PlayStation 5 generation to live services, by the way. And also, it's worth noting that I recommend like a PS5 Pro if you're a console enthusiast who is like chasing 60 frames, right? Like if you're that guy, then you should get a PS5 Pro. I have not played like any PlayStation 5 exclusives, you know, like barely any. Like the games that were PS5 kind of exclusive was like Kena Bridge of Spirits, which that's kind of third party, I'm pretty sure. And then it's like, what else did I play? That was a PlayStation exclusive. Oh yeah, Demon's Souls. I really like the Demon's Souls remake. I haven't played Horizon Forbidden West. I didn't play Ragnarok. I played 2018, but I saw the communism in Ragnarok, immediately threw it away. They also made it for like basically stupid babies, and I'm tired of them doing that to me. It's just, you're basically telling me that games are for idiots when I played Mario Sunshine as a kid, dude. Like, come on, stop. I also played Pokemon Blue when I couldn't read, and I found my way through that game when I couldn't read. So yes, kids are smart enough to do this. You doing this is sabotaging the future generation of children. Okay? You're making future gamers absolute brain dead Neanderthals. Like, I don't even know what their goal is with this, because with smarter consumers, like, art can thrive, and then you have better communities, and you have more you know what, whatever. I don't know what's going on. So to conclude this video, I decided that I'm just going to give you my strategy moving forward with games. You know, as of whatever date this is posted, right? This is going to be my strategy moving forward with games as I see the trajectory. I'm going to hold on to my PS5 Pro until they force me to not have a PS5 Pro. If I get a PS6, it's probably going to be the PS6 Pro, because I feel like I got duped on the PS5 really bad, and if they're just going to revise it and make it tremendously better, you know, then I'm going to wait for the second model that will inevitably come out, because Sony is presently king shit of fuck mountain when it comes to the premium console experience. There is no other game in town. Microsoft is done. So that will be my strategy moving forward. As for games and purchasing games, do not buy games day one. I did it this year and I paid for it. Okay? So basically, every time you buy a game, day one, you are paying a maximum price, full price, 70 to 80 bucks or something stupid like that. I paid 50 for Oblivion Remastered, but you know, I'm better with my money than you. But you should never pay that price because you are paying for the early access of these games. Games have too many moving parts for them to not launch hot. So why are you paying extra for an inferior experience for maybe some FOMO points? I don't fucking know. I don't know what's wrong with you. But like moving forward, dude, if you actually want to have more fun with this hobby, you can do it on a budget. And the digital sales on PlayStation, I built a library in a few months using like 10, 20 bucks a month, basically. I built an entire library that way. And there are tons of games you can get access to. Don't use these service models if you don't have to. And if you do, get the cheapest model that doesn't have games attached to it. The whole games library thing that you have to pay for monthly as a library card is dumb. You are losing money in the long run. And this is because, again, these games don't remain 70 bucks forever. And not only that, eventually you pay 5 bucks a month. We're going another. Eventually you're going to have spent the money on the game and then tenfold. You see what I mean? Because you can only ever play 2 to 3 games at a time. So that means in order for a service like Game Pass to even be worth the value, you have to play like 3 to 4 AAA games that they aren't making, by the way. Microsoft fucking sucks. They really, really suck. They have the entire Western games industry, and they suck because they're communists. Just some ASMR for you guys. We're trying out new things on the channel. You know, we're trying to up our internet points, I guess. But that's my strategy moving forward, guys. Don't buy, only ever buy games on sale, because when you buy a game on sale, even if it's 20 bucks, right? Even if it's like 20 bucks off, I mean. Even if it's 10 bucks off, guess what? Months have passed, patches have been put in. Like, dude, if I would have bought Oblivion Remastered, I would have gotten 20% off as of like this week, I think. I would have gotten 20% off, and the game would be at patch 1.2, which literally fixes one of the biggest problems Oblivion has ever had. So this is what I mean, guys. It's a better strategy. Like, when you're paying full price, you're paying for a beta. You are a beta tester. You are a beta tester. That's the problem with this shit. So again, moving forward, I'm going with PlayStation. I'm going to buy games on the cheap. I'm going to heavily research games that actually like me as a gamer, and I'm not going to play games that hate me, like Western developed AAA games do. They're inferior products. They're using these graphical engines that don't run well on 90% of the hardware out there. It's pathetically optimized because they just don't care. And that's what the real problem is. Because in indie and in third party, I don't see the same issues. I see some of the same sparks that I saw back in the early 2000s. So anyways, guys, I hope you got something out of this info dump. I hope you at least had fun listening to me ramble to you. This is Gummy Ghost. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. You're actually a champion. Stay beautiful.